Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Brentwood Baptist Leadership Podcast. I'm Stephanie Prince. This month, we're focusing on connections, helping churches create clear pathways for people to belong, grow, and engage in the life of the church. All of these conversations are designed to strengthen church teams as we head towards the Elevate Church Conference on September 21st and 22nd, 2026. Today, I'm joined by Shannon Moore, and we're talking about how churches can move people from being first-time guests to fully engaged members of the church family. Let's jump in.
All right.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi.
So let's talk a little bit about churches work so hard on getting people to the front doors. So they come for the first time, and then something happens. They don't come back. Mm-hmm. What is going on there? What can we do to drive people towards deeper engagement?
I think most churches know that hospitality, guest services, first impressions are important. Mm-hmm. And even when we talk about connections, I think we tend to think about those first impressions or maybe even the process of becoming members. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is not just gather people, but we're trying to move people toward mature discipleship.
Yeah.
So I think we need to think about even that first impression, that welcoming moment that we have with people is a step toward greater discipleship.
Yeah, it's part of the pathway. It's not
Absolutely.
the end-all, be-all result to get them in the door. We want to move them along into deeper discipleship, like you said.
Absolutely. And so I think that should always be everything that we do on the front end is with the end goal in mind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what does that look like? What are some of the barriers that keep people from entering along that pathway or get them to stumble and pause?
Sure. I think what I used to think about and what we used to see maybe in research, that barriers were like parking and whether or not we had the right programs or facilities. I don't know that those are really the barriers for people.
Okay.
I think the barriers are more about, is there room for me here? Is this a safe place for me to grow?
Yeah.
Is the message biblical? Mm-hmm. And so I think those are some of the things. I do think we live in a busy society. I think people are very busy with their jobs and with their education. Where our campus is located, it's by a college campus.
Yeah.
And so I think about the demands of that as well. So I do think that there is a point where the person has to recognize, am I willing to make the commitment? So as much as we're opening the door, there is a response from them as well as far as stepping into the community that we're hoping to offer.
There's responsibility on both sides.
Absolutely. Yes.
So what does it actually look like for someone when they visit the church? If they're looking for, do I belong here? Can I find community here? Can I grow spiritually here?
Sure.
What are those kind of tangible things that they're looking for?
I think ultimately it's community. I think we live in a society where there is a lot of isolation and loneliness. We could talk about why that is, but I think ultimately people are looking for community. And so ultimately, in a practical way, it is the way we greet people, the way we engage people. But I think what we're finding increasingly in the local church is that while the staff or the people maybe on our guest services team do a really good job of welcoming people, they're looking for intentional engagement. They're looking for relationship. Mm-hmm. So the sooner we can connect them to a person or persons, I really think the better opportunity we have to move them along in their membership process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
How can we think more intentionally about that journey?
Yeah. I think that we have to move beyond this idea that the process itself is going to carry people. And I do think we need a heightened awareness, not only, and I think this is something we found recently, is we had someone secret shop us. At Brentwood Baptist. So I know several of our campuses, mine, yours included, were shopped. And we got great scores on how we welcome people onto our campus. But one of the things we're finding is that our people themselves, the members of our congregation, also have to join us in that process. Mm-hmm. So practically for me, I mean, I would say that like when someone comes in, I try to make that personal touch. Yeah. I try to ask them, what brought you to Nashville? What brought you to Ab South? So that initial interest. But then I do think that we need to help people ask the question that maybe they're not asking, and that is, what is my next step? And I think that's how we move people along, and so we try to use that as like Aaron is closing a service. He'll talk about what your next step is and moving people toward it. We do that through connection cards and letting people indicate what they believe their next step is. And maybe their first step, which is, a relationship with Jesus Christ, and then progressing through those next steps. I often say, I believe every person has a next step.
Yeah.
And that really is the process toward making disciples, maturing in our faith, ultimately having meaningful membership.
Yeah, I feel like clarity is so important in that too. Next step gives you clarity of like, what are you asking me to do next?
And
what is one small step that I can take?
Exactly. And I think and you can probably share on this, it needs to be simple. I think the process is a gift to care for people. It's not just a process. Yeah. But is there clarity around that? And is it simple enough that people understand it?
Well, and I think that structure, like behind the scenes systems, gives us structure to be able to then relationally move people through this process.
Absolutely.
It's not A, B, C, D. Someone might come in the door and then get connected to C, and then B, then D. Like we're just trying to move people into deeper relationship.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a specific timeline, step by step.
Well, I think it is a journey.
Yeah.
I would love for it to be like a straight line, leads one place to another. But I do think
What if that makes it so easy?
Wouldn't it? I love it when it's easy. But we're people. So it is
rarely easy.
Exactly. And I think there's beauty in that journey, allowing the Lord to work in someone's life, bringing them to that place, whether that is making a decision around baptism, whether that's making a decision about being a member of the church.
Yeah.
It definitely is a journey. So I think we need to walk alongside people. I have found at our campus, I'd be interested to hear how that works for you, that moving people from guest to member has a lot to do, again, with biblical community and them finding their way to a group. So for us, I am finding that people are wanting to connect to community, and from that, they're moving toward membership. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, I think that's true for us too, and also serving as well.
Yeah.
Once they get involved in serving, and some of that is with more of like our regulations for like serving with kids. You have to be a member. You have to go through ministry safe training, background check. Like there's some more policies in place there.
Yeah.
And so they're learning more about what does membership mean? Why is this important? Why is this valued for these positions that I serve in? And so those are kind of on-ramps too for us, in addition to people just kind of coming in and saying, what's my next step of membership?
Sure. And I think that's why Discover is so important. It invites our guests to learn. When we talk about Discover Us, Discover You. So Discover Us saying, hey, learn about us.
Yeah.
What we believe. I don't think that the hindrance for people stepping into the life of the church is typically theological. I think it's more practical.
Yeah.
Than that. But I do think we do a good job in that respect of letting people know who we are. But I do think the piece of Discover You is so important, because you just mentioned that, about them understanding that God has gifted them spiritually.
Yeah.
And that is part of them, I think, their growth moving from guest to member, to understand that they have a significant role in the life of the church, something that the church needs that they can offer through their spiritual gifts.
It's such an important piece. Where do you feel like we lose people most in that process? Is there a point where they kind of fall off?
I think there's a couple places.
Okay.
I think from first-time guest, I think you have in your first contact, there can be an opportunity for people to get stuck or to potentially walk away. That could be maybe the interaction they have coming into the life of your church, or maybe they're at a point in their life where they walked in a crisis, and in the moment they thought, this is what I need. And we hope that they'll stay, but I do think that sometimes you have those initial responses to things. I think the time between when they become regular attenders and they get plugged in to either service or biblical community can be another time.
Yeah.
I think attending is great, but I think ultimately if you don't move past that, there's just a chance that they won't in the long run continue to be a part of the congregation.
Yeah, I feel like when we think about long-term engagement, that attending mindset is kind of consumeristic. Like I can kind of come and sit, nothing's being really expected of me.
Right.
And I can come and go as I please. And then once they start to see, no, my spiritual gifts, like I'm valued here, I'm needed here, I'm a piece of the kingdom here.
Absolutely.
Then that ownership kind of takes place, and that's where true long-term engagement settles in.
I agree.
So how do we balance some of this structure? You talked a little bit about our way of doing membership, which is discover us, discover you.
Right.
We also have that discover coaching aspect.
Yeah, so great.
So we've got a process for moving people along in this.
Yeah.
But how do we balance relationships in that too?
Well, I think that's the beautiful part of the coaching and even our discover process in general, because so much of that is the engagement in listening to somebody's story. Share your testimony with us. Share your story with us. Again, if I go back to thinking about like what brings you to the church, what brings you to Avenue South or to Station Hill.
Yeah.
But I do think it is the relational piece. I think I've lost my way in your questions, so if you want to form it back up for me one more time, I will finish answering it.
Fine. This is such good stuff. I love talking about these things.
Yes.
And I know you just mentioned like follow-up, that being a piece where people can fall off. So what does intentional follow-up look like for you at Ave South?
Sure. Follow-up for me is as quickly as I can, I try to make the actual human connection. So while initially they may get an email or a text message from me, I work very hard to try to get on old school, make a phone call and let them hear my voice and let them know that we're excited, that they have joined us and that we're excited about what the future might look like. I also do think it's really important to try to connect them to someone else in the congregation.
Oh, that's really good.
Whether that's a discover coach or whether that's somebody in a group, I try to make a personal connection. I will even do that on a Sunday morning. If I have a college student walk in and our single adult minister is there, I try to make that connection as quickly as I can. But I do think the Discover Coach and that piece for us, and I don't know how many other churches are using that, but I think for me, coming from another church prior to coming to Brentwood, I have just seen the importance of that so much because not only are they walking with them through their membership process and kind of discussing maybe any of those undone places, like, have I heard your testimony? Do you understand biblical baptism? Where are you going to step into the life of the church and use your gifts? It's also a reach back. So we ask our Discover coaches in a month and in 3 months to reach back out to the person that they have coached.
That's a great rhythm.
So that they have a safe place to ask questions or say, I did visit a group, probably wasn't the right fit. And they can help navigate those things with them.
That's really good. Where do you feel like in that process people actually stop seeing themselves as the guest and start being like, this is my church?
I think that happens when, going back to service, when they recognize that they are contributing to the body. Of course, anytime someone joins your church, you're really covenanting together, right?
Yeah.
But there is a place where they need to see that their presence is significant to this body. And I think that that's the point. When they're missed.
Yeah.
When somebody notices
I told
you're not here.
Yeah. I told somebody the story the other day that I was talking to somebody and they were saying like where they find belonging is when they are seen when they're at church and then seen when they're not at church.
Yes.
And I was like, that not at church piece is like they're missed.
Absolutely.
They want to be known and seen and valued and then missed when they're not there.
And we're talking about not just you're missed because we had a vacancy somewhere in your service, but because as a part of our church family, your presence was missed. And I think this goes back to, again, we are hoping that people will move into understanding that they're joining a body, they're joining a family, and ultimately they're joining God's mission. And we're doing that together. Yeah. We can't get away from the fact that you were talking about processes a little bit ago, and I think about acts. And so those who believed were baptized and they were added to the church. And then Luke gives a number. And so I do think that it's important for us. I think the processes that we have under which people come into the life of the church. So for us, that could be an email that we're following up on. It could go into a membership or database of some sort. But in all those ways, it is helping us care for people and that we don't miss them.
Yeah.
And those early months are so important. And so I think just making that initial contact for me, that's great. But then I want to try to make that contact again.
Yeah.
Maybe make that contact again. Probably uniquely for my role being in groups, I have the opportunity to connect those two pieces.
That is a really cool piece about your specific role. That's a good on-ramp between the two.
It really is.
And I feel like your heart is that people don't fall through the cracks.
Oh, absolutely.
You just want them to be seen and know that they're wanted to be there.
Yeah. And I'm hoping we are really shaping culture around that too.
Yeah.
Again, that, just I can't do that alone. You can't do that alone. And of course, we look at our connections team as kind of being the front lines of that.
Yeah.
But we're really calling everyone in and asking everyone to wrap around those that God is bringing into our church.
What does that look like to build a culture that values that?
Yeah, I think that I'll just tell a story.
Yeah, go for it.
If it's okay. When I've been about 2 years at App South. So prior to that, I had been on staff at a church for almost 25 years. So I would say that I had not walked into a church and experienced being a first-time guest in a really long time. And so I had the opportunity to do that uniquely at a church that I felt called to. And so I remember walking in and recognizing very quickly that, man, these people love one another and they have developed very close ties. I think because the church grew together, it was almost like a long-term missions trip. They built it kind of from the ground up. And so there were very close connections. But we were growing rapidly. And so I think there was a friendliness, but shaping a culture around looking for those who are not yet with us. And so I started saying that to my connections team here, that we exist on a Sunday morning to encourage one another in the body of Christ, to build one another up, to send one another out, but to also welcome those and be looking for those who are not yet with us.
Yeah.
And so we say it, and then we train our teams that, on a Sunday morning, be looking for those people that you don't recognize.
Yeah.
And then engage them. And so it's not, it is a process and it does take time, but I think it's something that we drip. And then Aaron will often say, sometimes we pound in reminding our people that this is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so important. So if a church maybe doesn't have a focus on this yet, what would it look like for them to start being more intentional with their guest engagement, guest follow-up?
Yeah. I think that it is something that we say from the front. I think often our pastor will say, if you're with us for the very first time, we're so glad that you're here. And so that is just heightening the awareness in the sanctuary that there are people here that you may not know.
Yeah.
And so I think, again, as we talk about membership and moving people toward membership, the onus is on the members themselves to begin to take the ownership of that. So am I looking around? Am I looking for those who are not yet here? Am I inviting them to come along with me?
Yeah.
Beyond the front door when you see someone. Can I answer a question for you? Can I help you find the room that you're looking for? Can I invite you to join me in my group today on Sunday morning?
And it doesn't just have to be a volunteer or a lay leader, someone with a name tag on that's the one doing the inviting.
Yes.
We have to build these cultures of hospitality among all of our people that just see somebody that they don't know and say, hey, do you have a small group? You want to come with me? I'm going to go the next service to my small group down the hall. Come join me.
Yeah. And it could be, even an event that's coming up in the life of your church.
Yeah.
And if you know somebody who's sitting next to you that, you could say, hey, we're going to have pizza with the pastors. I would love for you to join me to be a part of that.
Absolutely. That's really cool. So what does a healthy, connected church ultimately look like?
I think that ultimately it looks like followers of Jesus Christ who gather weekly in worship, who have prioritized biblical community where they're seen and known and accountable. I think it looks like people who have found their purpose and are serving in the local church and view it not as nice but necessary.
Yeah.
I think it looks like joining God in his mission to go. We haven't really talked about that, but that's part of it as well. Whether we're going home or we're going to our workplace or we're going to our communities or we're going to a world that so desperately needs to know the truth of the gospel. So I think ultimately it kind of starts where we began our conversation in the sense of we are not just welcoming guests, but we're welcoming people into discipleship, and ultimately that we would be disciples who make disciples.
It's all about discipleship.
It is.
Shannon, I feel like that was so well explained and such a passion of yours. I can tell how intentional you are at Av South for building that culture of hospitality and of guest engagement. So thanks for taking the time to be here and share a little bit with us.
Absolutely. It's a privilege. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks for joining us for this conversation. Healthy churches don't just attract people, they help people belong and grow. If today's episode encouraged you, we'd love to I got all the way through this and then I messed this part up. All those words together.
You can start with thanks for joining us.
Okay.
We just jump in there. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this conversation. Healthy churches don't just attract people, they help people belong and grow. If today's episode encouraged you, we'd love for you to join us at the Elevate Church Conference on September 21st and 22nd, 2026. Learn more and register at elevatechurchconference.com. Thanks for listening to the Brentwood Baptist Leadership Podcast. I'll see you next week.